Welcome to That's Good Sports. I am Brandon. The worst NFL news is almost always announced on Fridays, and this Friday was no different, Perna. The New York Giants corner, DeAndre Baker, has officially been charged with 4 counts of robbery with a firearm. A pretty sad conclusion to what would have been the most bizarre offseason story in the NFL if not for a global pandemic and Antonio Brown. Interestingly, Quinton Dunbar will not be charged for any crimes.
And Washington released running back Derrius Guice after he was charged with a pretty serious domestic violence incident.
And I'll discuss that today, as well as Cam Newton's first presser as a New England Patriot, the XFL sale getting approved, and some NBA news? Yeah, let's get it sports! Please subscribe to this YouTube channel if you're interested in near daily NFL news updates. Today's episode is sponsored by Raycon and the Everyday E25 earbuds. Have you ever wanted earbuds so amazing that you could hear subtle subliminal advertising with outstanding clarity?
Buy Raycon.com
Premium wireless earbuds. If you're a fan of my show but get nervous I'm going to drop an F-bomb while you're watching with your kids in the room, the E25s and their noise-isolating fit are a perfect solution. My dirty words will be our little secret. Now, I use mine to listen to medieval folk rock on my bike rides, which is proven to be the world's most motivational workout music. They have 6 hours of playtime, and there's color options to match your inner spirit animal. Mine, of course, is the owl. Half the price of other wireless earbuds. And since there were no subliminal messages in this ad, I must tell you to click my link in the description to get 15% off of your order. I'll start with a correction. Yesterday I stated the official opt-out number of NFL players was 66. Today, Chris Mortensen reported it is actually 69. And as you might expect, every single comment on his tweet was nice. And that is literally the only way to ensure all of your replies on Twitter are indeed nice.
Derrius Guice's short NFL career has been plagued by injuries. He only has 42 NFL carries so far, and now he probably won't play in the league ever again after being charged with strangulation, 3 counts of assault and battery, and 1 count of destruction of property. Again, these are all domestic violence related charges, and if true and convicted, this idiot should never play in the league again. This leaves Washington with Adrian Peterson as their number 1 running back. They did pay Peyton Barber $3 million this offseason as a free agent, and might end up looking at guys like Lamar Miller or Devonta Freeman to add depth to a very, very questionable running back room.
Now the Seattle Seahawks are officially interested in any human who has ever played the game of football at any point in their life. They may not be interested in bringing back edge rusher Jadeveon Clowney, especially if they are legitimately interested in Antonio Clowney, but they may now have their eyes on Everson Griffen and or Clay Matthews to fill their pass rushing void. This should have been expected, though, after the NFL CBA clearly stated no team shall employ 2 clowns. In terms of choosing between Griffen and Matthews, I think it's an easy choice despite the fact that both players had 8 sacks last season. Everson Griffen is 2 years younger than Clay, had 1.5 sacks against the Saints in the playoffs, and played in 15 games last season, whereas Matthews was only healthy for 13 after he was kicked in the face by Seahawks running back Chris Carson and missed a month with a broken jaw. Now you might think that's a freak accident, and we shouldn't proclaim Clay as being injury prone, but I believe his face is a magnet for pain and punishment. Last season, he had to have his jaw wired shut, which is the only way I think a team will allow Antonio Brown to play for them. But the summer prior, Matthews broke his nose when it ran into a line drive softball during a charity event. If you break your nose at a charity event, you're probably paying the price for some terrible sins you committed without the public ever knowing. Then you factor in how much the officials hate Clay Matthews when he puts his body weight on quarterbacks, and he seems like the absolute worst option for the Seahawks. Sorry, Clay, but I'm all in on Everson Griffen for all of the reasons I just mentioned. Now, Josh McCown still has the magic touch. Not in terms of a touch pass, but the gentle strokes on his phone's keyboard. ESPN's Jenna Lane reported that Tom Brady didn't realize the amount of mental energy it would take to learn a new playbook, after having the same one for 20 years. That's really embarrassing for the rest of the NFL when you think about it. Tom's been running the same plays for 20 years, and defensive coordinators still don't know he's going to throw it to the most open, widest player within a 10-yard radius? Come on, NFL! Anyway, upon seeing that tweet about how difficult it is to learn a new playbook, Josh McCown said, "Finally, something I might do better than Tom." I love Twitter wit. Josh McCown has had to learn the same amount of offensive playbooks as the number Tom wears on his chest, 12. I took this as another reason Peyton Manning is better than Tom Brady. When Manning switched teams, he did not complain about learning a new playbook. Instead, he just wrote the fucking thing and led the Broncos to 2 Super Bowls. The XFL sale has officially been approved by a U.S. bankruptcy court judge. Other than Judge Dredd, there's not a judge on earth who is going to say no to The Rock in a courtroom. Today is your lucky day, because That's Good Sports has acquired the exclusive footage of The Rock pleading his case in court today. So suck my toes, TMZ, I got it first.
That this
Objection!
never happens to
Sustained.
anyone else again.
Ordering the jury to ignore what they've just seen.
Damn, that almost looks like a scene from one of Dwayne Johnson's many films. Now, the XFL may return as soon as 2021 and could look very similar to what we just watched back in the winter of 2020. The exception may be a couple of teams changing cities. The Wildcats, Guardians, and Vipers were the 3 worst performing teams in terms of garnering support from their respective cities. Both San Antonio and Birmingham, Alabama, want to call themselves home for an XFL team, and both would be better options than LA and New York, in my opinion. Texas already has the Dallas Renegades and the Houston Roughnecks, so it's hard to justify giving that state a 3rd beautiful franchise when you could argue states without NFL teams might be the smartest franchise locations, as St. Louis proved in the 2020 season reboot with the Battlehawks. That is the only team in Missouri, because the Kansas City Chiefs belong to Kansas, and everybody knows that. It's in the damn name. Now, with nothing substantial yet, we will have to wait and see which cities actually land some of these XFL franchises. My one brilliant idea, though, is that The Rock rename every team after one of his movies. Keep the Tampa team, but ditch the Viper logo and name and just go with Tampa Bay Watch. The Houston Rampage, Dallas Doom, Jersey Jumanji, the Seattle Scorpion Kings, San Andreas Tonio, DC Ballers, and the St. Louis Tooth Fairies, who can essentially keep their winged logo and it will look exactly the same. If only Vin Diesel purchase a team, we could have the Pacifiers as well. What's a better movie, The Tooth Fairy with The Rock or The Pacifier with Vin Diesel? Now, it's official, Cam Newton is not ready to get back onto the field. During his first Zoom call with Boston media, Cam inexplicably had a face mask that did not match his shawl and flowered dress.
I really can't remember.
This shows a tremendous lack of respect for details, something that will not help Cam learn his new offense. Most notably, Cam should be worried that team owner Robert Kraft doesn't mistake him for one of his massage therapists. Don't be surprised, Cam, when Mr. Kraft isn't satisfied after you lead a game-winning drive, thinking you gave him the happy ending he wouldn't shut up about before the game started. defensive players, defenders, were scared to hit Tom Brady on the field in fear of drawing a flag. Cam Newton is one step ahead of Tom in tricking defenders into not hitting the old lady that accidentally wandered onto the field. The golden boy, and now the golden girl. DeAndre Baker has been charged with 4 counts of robbery and could face a minimum of 10 years in prison if convicted. Seahawks corner Quinton Dunbar lucked out and is not being charged due to insufficient evidence from the same crime night where both players were present. And the Seattle Seahawks may now have a formidable secondary, assuming the NFL doesn't dole out a suspension for Dunbar with their favorite suspendable offense, conduct detrimental to the league. I mean, the Seahawks' Jaron Reed was suspended for 6 games last season, where he too was ultimately not charged in a case due to insufficient evidence. Now, the version of the story that stated Baker committed the robbery and Dunbar wasn't really involved or didn't threaten anyone with a gun seems to be the one the court is buying. Those were the initial reports about the situation, and then we learned their lawyers may have arranged payments for witnesses to change their official affidavits, and now we will have to wait and see how much of Baker's life has been ruined for a terrible mistake he made. The state of Florida is not a place you want to commit any sort of crime. It has extremely harsh punishments for any criminals not named Jeffrey Epstein. Former NBA gun enthusiast Gilbert Arenas said to TMZ that the reason NBA players are griping about the bubble is because, and I quote, "no booty taking a toll." I repeat, no booty taking a toll. That's true, and it's especially hard for the married NBA players who usually use this time away from their family to cheat on their wives. We all have sacrifices to make during this pandemic, and booty must be rationed like every other perishable. Staying with the NBA, Spurs head coach Greg Popovich, after losing to the Nuggets earlier in the week, stated that Nikola Jokic was like Larry Bird reincarnated because he can do everything. If that is true, then this is what Jokic will look like in 30 years. It's not a great future for the Denver Nugget, but Twitter doesn't lie. And this week, the internet decided that this tomato was indeed Larry Bird. Adam Gase isn't worried about losing his best defensive player and his second best defensive player because he believes coordinator Greg Williams does a great job at adapting. It's crazy how well guys you've never heard of will play when the coach incentivizes them with cash rewards for brutal hits on key opponents, Gase went on to say. And finally, Dolphins running back Matt Breida made the self-proclamation that he is the fastest player in the NFL. Now, people were quick to point out how wrong he was about that statement, but that's because those people failed to read the article. Had you taken the time to do so, you would have seen that the full quote from Matt Breida read, "I'm the fastest player in the NFL without a police record." We all assume Tyreek Hill is the fastest player in the league, but Breida's claim to fame actually has some merit from next-gen stats, as his 22.3 mile per hour, 83-yard touchdown run is the fastest speed on record. They call that game speed, kids. Breida went on to say, and this quote is real, I swear, "I like going fast," Breida said. "I run fast. I just like doing everything fast." Everything, Matt? You like doing everything fast, Matt? I know a couple ladies that might say otherwise, if you know what I mean. That's right, you need to take your time when entering a relationship. Do not rush that type of thing, Matt Breida. Thanks for watching another episode of Oh, Boo, Yeah. Nobody listens to this part of the fucking episode. I can do whatever I want. I'm free here.